Qasim, the 13-year-old son of Imam Hassan in Farawah. Ashura came to the land of Karbala. Ali Akbar gave the Fajr Adhan. Everyone prayed thus Fajr Salat. One by one, Hussein's companions went to the battlefield and gave their life for Islam. They all became martyrs, Shaheed al-Karbala. By Zohar time, Imam Hussein was left with only his family on Muhammad, Qasim, Ali Akbar, and Abbas. The companions of Imam Hussein were alive and did not let Imam Hussein's family go to the battlefield. No one was left now. On Muhammad were keen to helping their uncle save Islam. They went to the battlefield and never returned. Qasim took permission from his mother, Farawah, to fight. He went to his uncle Hussein to ask for permission to fight. How can Hussein give permission to his brother's son to die? How can he allow a young child to die? Qasim, you are young. You are the only child of your mother. Qasim said, you are my brother's son. I have promised my brother to look after you. My darling Qasim, you are the image of my brother. You remind me of Hassan. No, Qasim, I cannot allow you to die. Qasim was very disappointed. He went to his mother for help. His mother reminded him of the taweez his father tied to his arm. Qasim opened the taweez and placed inside, found a letter for Hussein. Qasim was pleased to see the letter. He took the letter to his uncle Hussein. Hussein read the letter from his brother Hassan. Brother Hussein, a day will come when Islam will be needed to be saved by sacrifice. Hussein, I will not be alive on that day. However, my son Qasim will be. It is my wish that Qasim would represent me on that day. My dearest Qasim, how can I stop you now? Go, Qasim, go. He took Qasim to Bibi Zainab. Zainab, bring me Hassan Abba and his turban. Hussein dressed Qasim with Hassan's Abba cloak and turban. Zainab, look at Qasim. Doesn't he look handsome? He looks just like your brother Hassan. Tears flowed into Hussein and Zainab's eyes as they remembered their brother. Hussein dressed Qasim with the battlefield uniform, and he gave him the weapons. A young child with adult weapons, Qasim was so young that his sword touched the ground as he walked. He could not mount his horse on his own. Abbas, his uncle, helped him mount the horse. The young fighter Qasim rode to the battlefield. A rider whose feet did not reach the stirrups, the footstraps on the horse, but he was keen to save Islam. He was the young son of Hassan, the grandson of Ali. He was trained by Abbas. Qasim fought gallantly as he fought a battle of history we'll never forget. The enemy could not overpower him. One of Yazid's cowardly soldiers came from behind and hit Qasim in the head with a sword. Qasim was covered in blood. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Salawat. बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम ला शक बर की जो मक्त
मक्तल से उठा लाए हुसैन, लाश अकबर की जो मक्तल से उठा लाए हुसैन, नौजवां को सफ़े अव्वल से उठा लाए हुसैन, दी सदा लाशे पे सरान के ले जा बानो, छिद गया बरछी से अकबर का कलेजा बानो, लाश अकबर की जो मक्तल से उठा लाए हुसैन, देख ले आखिरी दीदार पे सर मरता है, सामने आँखों के ये नूरे नज़र मरता है, दम है सीने में रुका ज़ख्मों से खून जरी है, हाय बानो तेरे घर लुटने की तैयारी है, लाश अकबर की जो मक्तल से उठा लाए हुसैन। सलवात।
على حب فاطمة الزهراء صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وصلى اللهم على آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين. قال الله الحكيم في القرآن الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الدين عند الله الإسلام. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. When we talk about the spiritual journey of life, we must understand from the very beginning of the spiritual journey of life, this life is a life of hardship. It's a life of trials and tribulations. It's a life that gives us problems. And it is through solving the problems and maintaining the Islamic identity within this life that gives us the position in the hereafter. Mankind was not made for this world. Mankind was made for the eternal life of the hereafter. And every single thing that is created in this world is a manifestation of the characteristics, more specifically the mercy and the compassion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything that exists in the akhirah is a manifestation of divine mercy as well. I like to say, for example, that even hell is not made for the wrath of God. Heaven and hell, the heaven is not made for heaven and hell is not made for hell. When Aimma Ahl al-Bayt, and I believe this was Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. When they're asked about the different types of worshippers and worship, he says the first type of worship is the worship of somebody who worships God out of fear. Meaning they don't care about God. They're just afraid that if they do not perform the acts of worship, they're going to hell. Imam says this is the worship of a slave. Not in the sense of Abdullah, but somebody who does not think they have any other options. They do it because it's route, it's programmed in their mind that they have to do it. They're being indoctrinated in the idea of the prayer, that's why they do it. They don't think they have any free will, and as a matter of fact, they become so afraid of hell that practically speaking, in their own lives, they don't practice their will, their free will. This is the worship of somebody who does not really worship God. He's just afraid of hell. The second type of worship is described by the Imam as the one who worships God out of desire for paradise. But then this is not real worship either, because the Imam says this is the worship of a moneymaker, of a banker or whatever. Why? Because when I go to work expecting a reward, a salary, bonus, benefits, insurance, and all of this type of stuff. If I worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because I want paradise, I'm not performing the work or the responsibilities or obeying the laws of Sharia because I want to please God. I want the monetary return in the afterlife. I want to be in paradise. I want to have a massive mansion in paradise. God knows how many miles or acres or whatever. 72 huris and all of the rivers of honey and milk and all of this type of stuff. This is not worship. This is money making. The great Mufakkir, Insanul Kamil, Imam Khomeini alayhi salam. This was one of the first and earliest works I read about of Imam Khomeini. And he was talking about, it's called Jihadul Akbar. We have different works of Imam Khomeini that have been present in English as well. Sharh al-Hadith, 40 hadiths, Adabul Salat, Sirrul Salat. Sirrul Salat was actually a small work on the nature of prayer. The Ulafa of that time, they went to Imam Khomeini and they said, this book is too difficult, nobody is going to understand it. So therefore, write an easier book. He wrote a PhD dissertation, Adabul Salat, which was meant to be the easier work, and people still don't understand it. His work on tafasir is profound. In the work called Jihadul Akbar, he talks about ulama. And he says, look, there are ulama today in our time that when they go to Hawza, they're not going for the service of the community or the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They come to Hawza, they put on their imama, they get their ijazah, and they start making money out of the services of Ahlul Bayt and services of religion. Imam Khomeini goes so far as to say this alim who comes to Hawza for money is worse than the bankers of Wall Street. Because the bankers of Wall Street, they only control your money. So if you lose and the market goes down and you lose all of your wealth, that is physical wealth of this world. Yet the alim or the sahib al-aba or imama who goes to Hawza, studies and just wants to make money of it, he ruins your dunya and your akhirah. And Imam Khomeini goes so far as to say that person should himself take off his aba and imama, shave his beard, and leave Hawza. Because that one who is doing this for money is actually following the characterization of the Imam, who says that the second type of worshipper is the one who wants reward out of it. If I want a reward out of my services to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, That's not Islam. This work is done fi sabilillah. And then he says the final worshipper is the worship of the one who worships God because he deems Allah worthy of worship. And that is the worship of the human being. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is the worship of the one who follows the path of Amir al-Mu'mineen, who says, if all the veils between me and Allah are lifted, there would not even be a single increase of my iman, because he already had that iman from the first place. Imam Ali is the one who knows Khilafah is his, yet in Dua Kumail, which Imam Ali gave to Hazrat Kumail, he says, فَأَنَا عَبْدُكَ الضَّعِيفُ الذَّلِيلُ الْحَكِيرُ الْمِسْكِينُ الْمُسْتَقِيمُ. In Munajat of Amir al-Mu'mineen that's recited in the month of Ramadan and Layal al-Qadr, Imam Ali is sinless. He is no sin whatsoever. Yet in that munajat he says, ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي. I have done injustice to my nafs. Imam Ali, in that munajat, when he addresses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly, he says, أَنْتَ الْبَاقِي وَأَنَا الْفَانِي. You are the one who is everlasting, and I will be annihilated. That is a sign for us that says, when we look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to understand that the only reality that exists in the world is truly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything else is a non-reality. All non-realities, including our own beings, will be destroyed on the Day of Judgment. The only thing that will remain is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أنت الباقي وأنا الفاني. أنت الباقي وأنا الفاني. This is the characteristic that we need to have. And we need to really understand that the spiritual journey, we don't need to pray for difficulties in life. Life comes with difficulties, period. Family passes away, friends pass away. I have a test tomorrow morning. It's difficult. Sometimes I know, being the fact that I received my education in the States, there's difficulty in the lives of the American youth who are not Muslim even. Because now you have to, once you're in high school, parents expect you to work, and you have to maintain your GPA throughout college and work at the same time, and all of this. Life is difficult. If we want to live a spiritual life in this world, we don't have to pray for difficulty. It already happens. It's life. What we need to pray for is success. It's to get to that final goal. A lot of times people pray for difficulty, and that prayer is not saying, Allah, I want difficulty in life. When you say, Allah grant me sabr, that's an implication that you want difficulty. We should not even be praying for that. The prayer of a mu'min, somebody who wants to traverse the path of irfan, is Allah grant me success. Grant me success. Make sure I don't lose my vision to seeing you. A lot of times the youth, they complain saying the path of spirituality in America is very difficult. I'd mentioned the example of Imam Khomeini and the watermelon story. They say it's very easy in the East, because in the East in Iran you have the government, you have the holy sites, you have family structures. In America, we don't have any of that. The Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, in many of his messages, he says the biggest problem in the West is not a problem of liberal democracy or politics. It's not a problem of Daesh or terrorism or whatever. It's the fact that the basic family unit has been disintegrated completely. So now how do I talk about preserving the family? It seems very difficult. It seems very easy over there. But wherever there is the most difficulty, there is the greatest chance for success and perseverance. There's the greatest chance of success and perseverance. Looking at 2019 America, growing up in the United States, you have friends, maybe who are Muslim or non-Muslim, does not matter because they all go through the same problems. They will commit acts of haram and they expect you to do the same thing. It's true. But remember, this religion was founded and preserved by the women and the youth. By the women who, like Sayyidah Zainab, Bibi Fatima al-Ma'suma al-Qawm, Fatima al-Zahra, and those who are their servants, and the youth. After all, when Da'wat al-Dhul Ashira occurred, Imam Ali was what, like 13? He was young. He was young. The declaration of the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen happened in his youth. You have the examples of the Sahaba of Jaysh Osama, who in the last battles of the Prophet instructed him, the Prophet knew what was going to happen in the last stages of his life. He knew what was going to happen afterwards. He ordered the Sahaba to go to the army of Osama to make sure that the transition of power between the Risala of Rasulullah and the Imamat of Amir al-Mu'mineen would happen right away. Yet the Sahaba did not go, and a Prophet of God cursed those who did not join the army of Osama when they were ordered to. Osama was a young lad. He was young. He was a young individual. In Karbala we have the likes of Aun and Muhammad. In Karbala we have the likes of Qasim. In Karbala we have the likes of Ali and Al-Akbar. If the path to spirituality is difficult, we must understand that the reward is greater in the United States of America than anywhere else in the world. After all, when we talk about different hadith related to the youth, we must understand there is one specific hadith that comes to mind. The hadith that says that the mind of the youth is like a fertile soil. You reap in it whatever you sow. You get out of it whatever you put into the ground. Many speakers, many ulama say this hadith incorporates everything. And the true version and the true interpretation is not about sciences or anything like that. It's about irfan. If you instill the path of spirituality in a person in their youth, and mysticism and ruhaniyat, that is fertile ground when they're young. That is completely fertile ground. And that will be reaped when they're older. That, they will get the reward for that when they're older. Because the life of a youth the mind of a youth is constantly malleable. Why is it that in modern societies, youth are expected to rebel against their parents or authority? Because the society is molding the mind of the youth to say, I don't need my parents. I don't need society. But if you take that same mind and you instill the ideas of irfan and spirituality and true submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that reward they will get throughout the rest of their lives. Please recite a salawat. Another salawat for the love of Ahlul Bayt. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Even in the 79 revolution, Imam Khomeini had a very beautiful statement. We did not get this revolution on the backs of old men. If this revolution was made successful, it was because of the women and the youth. The youth are the backbone of our community. Today there might be problems, But if we give them the right guidance, they are the ones who will lead the community into the future. They are the ones who, if we guide them right now, I like to say, when I started delivering Jummah khutbahs, one of my statements, if I remember properly, was that the youth, by the very fact that they live in this society, they know Islam better in America than anybody else does. A lot of times it's not that they don't know, they need to be made aware of the fact that they know, own the idea that their understanding of Islam is legitimate, and then you help them implement the Islamic rules and regulations. Because they already know what's happening in America. They live that life 24/7. They watch the news, they watch American shows, they watch Netflix, they already know. If there is a problem in the youth, it's because somebody like me, I'm not saying anybody else, I cannot bridge the gap between myself and the youth so that I can give them their answers. Cultural models of leadership and the relationship between the ulama and the masses, in this case specifically the youth, they're not capable of solving the problems of modern society. The hadith al-ulama warathatul anbiya is that in the zaman al-ghaiba, the hadith says al-ulama warathatul anbiya, ulama are the inheritors of the prophets. It incorporates every aspect of guidance that you need in zaman al-ghaiba, including how to solve the problems of the youth. Including that. And we need to make sure that our youth understand that they are our future. If I don't give them answers right now, how are they going to get it? I remember in my youth, the first time I asked a representative of a marja a question, it was a family friend, Ayatollah Sistani's representative to the United States, Sheikh Fadl Sahnani. And whenever he would get shy or emotional, his face would turn red. I asked him a question in Ramadan, his face turned red, and all the fear went away. The idea is, if you are saying that X person is a representative of a marja, and they're saying that Islam has answers to everything, I should be able to ask you any question related to Islam without any fear, without any gap between the relationship between us two, and get an answer. If I am saying, sitting on the mimbar, that Islam has answers for everything, and anybody comes in, anybody, I should be the one who understands Islam enough to give them an answer. If I cannot give them an answer, how can I expect them to follow religion in their community and society? That requires having scholars who have the analytical ability and the capability and the understanding to know the mindset of the people, especially in this case the youth in the society they are living in. That is why I am actually a proponent that our scholars should get higher degrees from the countries that they're living in. Because if you want to say, help the youth, if you don't understand the analytical framework that they're living in, there's no way you're going to be able to bridge that gap. They might be talking about the earth, but you're thinking that they're in Mars. They might be talking about a real problem that they face, yet due to the inability or the lack of knowledge about the society and the analytical framework of that society, the answer that was the most easiest to give will become the most difficult. And I must say, I'm very openly say this, I have asked different mujtahideen questions. There's something about the assumption of absolute moral authority, or being the closest thing to absolute knowledge. Of course, they're not ma'asum, so they don't have absolute knowledge, that brings within the characteristics of the mujtahids and the marja taqlid an extreme humility, whereby from a regular scholar you will feel that there's a difference between them and the people, Yet when you go to the oldest living Marja Taqlid today, Ayatollah al-Uthman Sheikh Safi Gul Paigani in Qom, one of my cousins, they went for ziyarah, they met him. He met the children, and he said, seeing a smile on the face of these young children brings a smile on my face. He's 100 years old, close to that. He sees a 5-year-old and he wants to answer their questions. You will have, and I've seen this myself, in Hawzatul Ilmiyyah, Mujtahid giving dars on Ramadan in the offices of other Mujtahids. Not yelling, nor screaming, no slapping of thighs or anything like that. Very soft-spoken. And they will talk about the ethical problems of the Muslim youth in Dearborn or any other place in the world as if they've actually experienced those problems because they understand the needs of the community. If I say we need to have a Mutahhari of the time or Bihishti of the time, Shaheed Mutahhari's analytical abilities were beyond par. That means I need to understand, or Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr of the time, or Mustafa Khomeini of the time. Their analytical capabilities were so high that they understood both the Islamic tradition and Western philosophy and Western political thought and Western sciences. It's very important for the alim to have an understanding of the Western subjects or the secular subjects, which are really, if they are meant for the living of an Islamic life and the preservation and the creation of Islamic societies and the helping of Islamic societies, they're Islamic, they're not secular. They're Islamic. And we need to know that. I need to know that. I need to do these things. After all, Karbala is all about giving everything for Ahlul Bayt. Everything. We must understand that all of Ma'asumeen, they prayed for the coming of Imam al-Mahdi, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Please do salawat. Every mu'min, every Shia, every person who has a heart, every Muslim, when they encounter a difficulty, they say, Ya Ali adrikni. Oh Ali, help me. But when Fatima Zahra encountered the greatest difficulty, she was crushed between the wall and a burning door, and there was a nail that punctured her stomach. Imam Ali is right there. Hassanain are right there. Salman, Abu Dhar, Miqdad, Ammar are all right there. She does not say, Ya Ali, help me. Ya Ali, adrikni. Ya Hassanain, adrikni. Ya Salman, Abu Dhar, Miqdad, Ammar, help me. No. You know what she says? Ya Mahdi. Ya Mahdi. Her fetus became shaheed, and the first person she remembers is Imam Mahdi. This is a sign for us. This is a real sign for us. All of Ahlul Bayt were preparing themselves in society for the government of Imam Mahdi. In 2019 America, if I say this, I need to make sure my actions are such that when Imam Mahdi comes back, or when his zuhur happens for the masses, I am the first one in the line of the services of Imam Mahdi. There are different rawayat as to the different signs of the return of Imam Mahdi. And there are many different rawayat. One of them, many of them, they're categorized into two categories: signs that must happen and signs that could happen, but they don't need to happen for the return of Imam Mahdi. One of the signs is the rise of Sayyid al-Khurasani. Another sign is the rise of Sayyid al-Yamani. Another sign is the rise and the war cry of the Sufyani. and the swallowing of the Sufyani's forces as they reach Medina. When it comes to Sayyid al-Khurasani, they say that he will be a Husseini Sayyid who will have rulership over what is now Iran. And they say he will have a wound or a disability in his right hand. Now we're not told, we cannot say 100% that this is the sign, but there is a Sayyid today in Iran. He runs the government and he has a wound in his right hand. There is, the Yamani's forces are supposed to be the army of the yellow flag. His origin will be from Yemen, meaning his parents are from Yemen. The hadith goes so far as to say that the Prophet, when he talks about Sayyid al-Yamani, he says his first name will be the name of my son Hassan, and people will call him the help of God, which translates into Arabic as Nasrallah. We cannot say 100% yes or no, but these are signs. And the reason why our ulama try to establish the signs is not to say that they know 100%, it's to create hope in the hearts of the believers that the Zuhur of Imam Mahdi is near. The Sufyani is supposed to rise from Syria. And the final sign, which occurs 2 weeks before the Zuhur of Imam Mahdi, is the Shahada of Muhammad Nafsus Zakiyah. Muhammad the pure soul. Muhammad the pure soul. After that, they will say within 2 weeks, Imam al-Mahdi will, on the day of Ashura, Friday, on the day of Ashura, his Zuhur will be known to everybody. These few are the signs that must happen for the Zuhur of Imam Mahdi to happen. But, and there are different signs and stuff like that about wars occurring in the time of Imam Mahdi, battles and fighting, and different types of natural disasters, famine, and God knows what type of diseases. When Imam Mahdi comes back, it is said, I believe there are 27 doors of knowledge, or something along those lines. When before Imam Mahdi comes back, I'm not saying right now, I'm saying at the time of the Zuhur, they say only 2 doors of the city of knowledge will be open. When Imam Mahdi comes back, he will open the remaining 25 or 27, however much there are. I asked one of my friends who was a student in Qom, when he was in Hartford Seminary with me, how is that possible? Imam Mahdi is running the government. He says, look, this does not mean that the Imam will be starting writing books on physics and neuroscience and calculus and political theory. Who knows? But that does not mean that. That means when the Imam comes, first of all, the intellect of mankind will be raised to a point that everybody will say, we have met Imam Mahdi before. And when he comes back, he himself will raise the intellect of humanity and the human individuals so much that the raising of their intellect will, by means of his Zuhur, will open the rest of the doors of the city of knowledge that were previously closed. When I say 2 doors are open, when he returns, I'm not saying 2019. If he comes back tomorrow, yes. This could be 20 years down the line, 50 years down the line. When he comes back, only 2 doors will be open. And when his Zuhur is made public, he will open the remaining 25 or 27. Recite salawat, please. And he will have 313 governors, 313 of his close confidants. Nabi Isa will pray behind him. All of these things will happen. All of these things will happen. It is said when his Zuhur happens, the first trip, the first ziyarah he will go to after his Zuhur, he will make the ziyarah of Karbala. And it said that when he makes ziyarah of Karbala, he will unearth the body of a 6-month-old baby, and he will say, what is the fault of this baby? He goes to Karbala. There are traditions that say that the Imam Every Tuesday he is in Jamkaran. Every Tuesday he is in Jamkaran. One of the most well-known khutaba and zakirs of Indo-Pak by the name of Maulana Sadiq Hassan Sahab. He narrates a tradition that says when the two masjids, Masjid al-Sahla and Masjid al-Jamkaran, become populated, understand that the Zuhur of Imam Mahdi is near. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, Iraq was under Saddam, so Masjid al-Sahla was closed for the past 30 years. In Iran, he says, 30 years ago, nobody used to go to the Masjid al-Jamkaran. Now when you go to the Masjid al-Jamkaran, if you go on the time of Maghrib prayer, on a Tuesday, you will have the back seat of the courtyard. You will not be able to even move close to the front, let alone enter the masjid itself. And we must understand that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein gave the ultimate sacrifice, meaning his life. But the Bibi Zainab gave a greater sacrifice, for which Imam Mahdi cries twice every day, tears of blood. He does not cry, he says in Diratul Nahiyya, for the Shahada of Abu Abdullah or Ali Akbar or Al-Abbas or Qasim or Muhammad or Muslim ibn Aqil or the companions, Hani ibn Urba, Habib ibn Madahir, Muslim ibn Al-Sajj, or any one of those. He cries twice every day, tears of blood, for what happened to Sayyidah Zainab on the night of Sham al-Ghariba. Tonight I want to talk to you about Karbala specifically. Karbala was that stance of Abu Abdullah that beforehand, those that violated the religion, especially Yazid, was considered Khalifatul Muslimin. After Karbala, nobody has the right to consider any oppressor Khalifatul Muslimin. Any oppressor. On the day of Ashura, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein reads Fajr. Karbala is all about signs and indications and guidance. You know what happens? The first person, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, orders his son Ali al-Akbar to give the adhan of Fajr on the day of Ashura. Ali al-Akbar goes, and even Yazid's army, they see for the first time since the death of Rasulullah, an individual who looked exactly like Rasulullah. Imam al-Hussein is pointing to Ali Akbar basically and showing them that if you want Rasulullah, it's with us, it's not with you. Ali al-Akbar gives adhan. As soon as the women and the children, they hear the adhan of Ali al-Akbar, they start crying and lamenting. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he prays Fajr. And the battle of Karbala begins. One by one, each companion is becoming martyred. Hur becomes shaheed, Hur's sons become shaheed. Habib ibn Madahir, Muslim ibn Awsaja, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn. All of the companions, one by one, they keep on asking about Abdullah al-Hussein permission to go fight. When the companions were alive, nobody touched Ahlul Bayt. But after the last companion gained Shahada, the first person, it came time for Bani Hashim to give their sacrifice. The first person Abu Abdullah al-Hussein sends to the battlefield is his 18-year-old son Ali al-Akbar. Ali al-Akbar, it is said when all the companions had reached the blessed station of Shahada, Ali al-Akbar goes to his father. He asks for permission. Imam al-Hussein, he does not say anything. He just bows his head. Ali al-Akbar takes that as a sign of permission from his father. Ali al-Akbar is thirsty for 3 days. He goes and he fights. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is looking at his son fighting. Layla, Ali al-Akbar's mother, cannot look on the battlefield for what happens to her son. She is looking at the face of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein to see how her son is fighting and what's happened to him. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein sees Ali al-Akbar is fighting. He fights valiantly, he fights bravely. All of a sudden, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein's face turns pale white. Layla says, what happened to my son? Is my son okay? Is Ali al-Akbar okay? Layla, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein says, yes, but I see someone who wants to kill your son. So go to the tent and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the prayer of a mother is always accepted on behalf of her children. She goes to the tent and she prays, oh, the one who united Yusuf with Yaqub, unite my son with his father. That dua gets accepted, but that dua brings upon a trial for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Ali al-Akbar comes back and he says to his father, Father, you've seen me fight valiantly, you've seen me fight bravely, but you will see me fight even braver, more valiantly, with more courage, had I had a few drinks of water. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he has no water. He says to his son, son, if you want, you can get the saliva from my tongue. Ali al-Akbar embraces Abu Abdullah al-Hussein's tongue with his own. He immediately is drawn back and he says, Father, your tongue is drier than mine. Father, your tongue is drier than mine. Father, you're thirstier than I am. Ali al-Akbar goes. He goes back to the battlefield. Nobody can stop Ali al-Akbar. He goes and he fights. The Arab tradition was it was considered cowardly to fight one man against a group. So they would fight one-on-one. On the day of Ashura, when they found out nobody could fight Ali al-Akbar individually, they surrounded him in a circle, and a man came from behind Ali al-Akbar, and he shot an arrow into the chest of Ali al-Akbar. That arrow went to that arrow pierced the chest of Ali al-Akbar. Ali al-Akbar falls, but you know what? You know what? The first thing he says to his father, he bids his last salams to his father, and he says to him, O father, Ya Jaddah, O father, I see my grandfather Rasulullah, and he says to him, Father, he has given me a drink after which I will never be thirsty ever again. He is saying, Father, you don't worry about my thirst anymore. You were not able to give me water, but my grandfather Rasulullah gave me water after which I will never be thirsty ever again. And then he says, Father, he has a cup of water waiting for you too. He's waiting for you, O Father. Rasulullah is waiting for you. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he goes to the body of Ali al-Akbar. I don't know how he took off the head of that lance, that arrow from the chest of Ali al-Akbar. But it is said that he brought the body of Ali al-Akbar back to the Khayyam. All the women and children, they surrounded the body of Ali al-Akbar. And Lady Zainab started wailing and lamenting after she sees her 18-year-old son with his chest completely shattered into pieces because of the arrow that was put in his chest. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayyam al-qalabi yanqalibun. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي